Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the models of communication. But let us know what is communication. Communication is a process of transferring an information from one person to another or from one person to a group. Now there are three models of communication, namely linear model of communication, interactive model of communication, and transactional model of communication. First is the linear model of communication. This model of communication was invented by the engineer and mathematician Claude Shannon and the scientist Warren Weaver. This model of communication has the following elements: sender, message, receiver, channel, and noise. This model of communication is represented by a straight line wherein it is a one-way communication and non-interactive one. The sender transmits the message and then the receiver absorbs that message but doesn't give a response. Now as you can see, there are curved lines above and below the message. These curved lines are the noise. Noise could be the environment or the people. This is the disturbs the communication or interferes the communication. Now, an example of this model of communication is speech and television broadcast. A good example is the valedictorian speech, wherein the valedictorian is the sender and then the receiver are the audience or the people who participates in the graduation ceremony. Now, this example could be the the message could be delivered through digital or it could be through face-to-face. So, just remember that the linear model of communication is a one-way and a non-interactive one. Now, the next model of communication is the interactive model of communication, which was proposed by Wilbur Schramm. This model of communication has a similarity of the linear model of communication wherein it has the same elements as the linear model. It has a sender, a receiver, a channel, a message, and then a noise. The primary difference of this model to the linear model of communication is that it has a feedback, wherein the receiver gives a response to the message given by the sender, thus allowing the exchange of information. If this model of communication is a shape, it could be a circle, wherein there are continuous exchange of information from one person to another. An example of this model of communication are text messages or social media, wherein a person could be a sender and sends a message through maybe a cell phone, or it could be a computer or a laptop, and another person will receive that message. Now, a noise, there is also a noise in this in this example. So the noise would be a poor signal, or it could be an unstable connection wherein it might stop the communication, or it could also prevent the message for the receiver to receive it. Just remember that interactive model of communication has the exchange of information from one person to another. Now, the last model of communication is the transactional model of communication. This model of communication was proposed by Dean Barlon. This model of communication has a similarity with the interactive model of communication and linear model of communication, wherein it has also the elements such as a sender, a receiver, a message, a channel, a feedback, and a noise. Now, the difference of this model of communication to the interactive model and communication is that when the sender transmits a message to the receiver, and if the receiver understands the message that the receiver accepted from the sender, then it can the receiver will become the new sender, and then the sender will become the new receiver of the communication. Now, this model of communication is the general model of communication, wherein there are changes or transformation of elements such as the person, environment, or the medium used. An example of this model of communication are students who belongs in the same classroom and has the same subjects and the same teacher, wherein they can just communicate with each other every day, or with the use of different mediums. So the sender and the receiver in this model of communication belongs in the same social system. Okay, so just remember that the transactional model of communication is just the same with the interactive model of communication, is that it has an exchange of information. Okay, now let us review. The linear model of communication is a non-interactive model of communication and a one-way communication wherein there are no responses coming from the receiver. The interactive model of communication is there is an exchange of information between the sender and the receiver. And then lastly, the transactional model of communication is that there is also an exchange of information from the sender to the receiver and back from the receiver back to the sender. It's just that the transactional model of communication, there is a change or transformation of people, environment, and medium. And the people or the sender and the receiver in this communication belongs in the same social system.